announce your name, please respond yay to indicate that you are present. Susan Anderson.
Yay.
Hugh.
Yay.
Thank you. Tricia Boyer.
Yay.
Trini.
Yeah.
Hong.
Yay.
Bruce Littleton.
Yay.
Yingyan.
Yay.
Steve McKenzie.
Yay.
Eduardo.
Did you say Mike?
I said Eduardo.
Oh, sorry. I was just, all right.
All right. Raquel.
Yay.
Thank you. Mike.
Here.
Thank you. April.
Yay.
Tessa.
Here.
Thank you. Tony.
Here.
And John is also available listening into the call. If you could respond in the chat, that would be great. Is there anybody, let's see, it looks like I missed Scott.
Yay.
Thank you, Scott. Alan.
Yay, I'm here.
Good morning. And Albert.
Yay.
Great. Let's see, I believe that's anybody. Is there anybody who I did not call out your name?
Yeah, Queen Creek.
Marshall? Is that you on phone number ending in 863?
Yes, not sure why my name
Okay.
didn't show up, but
Yeah, we just want to identify who's on that number. Thank you. And it looks like that's the only phone number that's dialed in. So I think we're set. All right, so we have quorum. So today's meeting of the MAG ITS committee is formally called to order. Just a friendly reminder, please mute your microphone to eliminate any feedback, especially those of you who are on the phone. You will have the opportunity to raise your hand in the chat to be recognized, at which time you can unmute your microphone to speak. You can also use the chat to type in your question or comment at any time. And when you begin speaking, please state your name and organization for minute-taking purposes. Let's see. All right, item 2 on the agenda is call to the audience. Members of the public have been asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour before the posted start time. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG jurisdiction, but are not on the agenda or on the agenda for discussion and not for action. MAG staff, do you have any public comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the ITS committee. There was no comments for this item or any other item on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Item 3 on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from November 4th, 2020. Please take a few moments to review the minutes, and I'll give you a few moments. Okay, while you continue to review those, I did have one item that I noticed. Item 1 on the agenda, or actually item 2 on the agenda, call to the audience, is actually repeated under item 1, call to order. So that's all I had.
David,
Yes,
move to approve as amended the minutes.
thank you, Bruce. Scott has raised his hand for a second. So at this point, I will go through the roll call and ask you to respond yay or nay for approval of the meeting minutes. Susan?
Yay.
Hugh?
Yay.
Tricia?
Yay.
Alan?
Yay.
Albert?
Yay.
Trini?
Yeah.
Hong?
Yay.
Bruce?
Yay.
Ying Yang? Ying Yang?
Yay.
Steve?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Eduardo? Eduardo? Marshall? Marshall?
Yes.
Thank you. Raquel?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
April?
Yay.
Tessa?
Yay.
All right, and we received John's approval by email. So with that, the motion passes for approval of the minutes from the November 4th meeting. Thank you, everyone. Item 4 on the agenda is the program manager's report. MAG TSMO program manager, Jeff Jenk, will now provide updates and a report to the committee. Jeff?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. The first item on my report is a federal update. I would like to invite Ms. Tony Whitfield of the Arizona FHWA Division to give the report. Tony?
Good morning, everyone. I have a few updates today. I believe there's a slide with some websites as well. There we go. So my first item is the Federal Highway recently announced a new freight mobility trends analysis tool. This tool uses the National Performance Management Research Dataset, known as NPM-RDS, and it also uses the Highway Performance Monitoring System, so HPMS data, and this visualizes freight highway performance at the national level. This tool features an interactive dashboard that can be used to query, and its tool is also used to develop a national list of 100 major freight highway bottlenecks. So you can learn more by visiting that website available on the slide. The next item is the ARCIT version 9.0 release of the National ITS Architecture. This is a major release of the National ITS Architecture, and it fully defines and upgrades the 4 architecture views that were initially defined in ARCIT 8.0. And this includes changes that support vehicle automation content. And that has all been inspired by specific research results and stakeholder input, including input during the National Dialogue on Highway Automation meetings. So all of the significant enhancements for ARCIT 9.0 can be found at the following website. The next item, NHTSA has published an advance notice of proposed rulemaking for safe automated driving systems, and this was published on November 19th. NHTSA and others have identified elements of a framework that are necessary for objectively defining and assessing automated driving system competence. So NHTSA is seeking public comment on certain principles to govern the safe behavior of automated driving systems in the future. And comments are due in 60 days, so that puts us at about mid-January. So take a look at that advance notice and provide comments if you would like. Next slide, please. The next item, Federal Highway National Coalition on Truck Parking had a virtual meeting yesterday. During this meeting, participants heard about certain truck parking initiatives that included an overview of planning, research, and investment resources. And Federal Highway also gave a presentation on the 2019 Jason's Law survey results. That meeting was open to all, and there should be a recording available soon. So I'll be sure to provide the information on that recording once it's available to this committee. And then finally, Everyday Counts Round 6 is having a virtual summit December 8th through the 10th. EDC summits generally are in person. And this year it's being conducted virtually, and it gives more people an opportunity to attend. And everyone's invited, so take advantage of that opportunity. During the summit, there will be the 7 EDC 6 initiatives will be introduced, and updates will be shared on popular initiatives from earlier rounds. There are 2 specific initiatives that might interest this group that are in EDC round 6, and those are crowdsourcing for advancing operations and next generation traffic incident management, integrating technology, data, and training. Again, the summit is planned over a 3-day period. Everyone is welcome to register and join in any of the days and any of the sessions. The sessions will be recorded and available after the summit, but you must register to have access to them. Also, ADOT Director John Halikowski will be speaking on Tuesday morning of the summit. So follow the link provided to register, and I believe the agenda is also posted at that link as well. And that concludes my updates.
Well, thank you, Tony. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
The next item on my report is an update of the upcoming ITS training opportunity. As you know, that MAG every year provided training on the Synchro software. This year, due to the COVID-19, the training has been postponed. And now that the pandemic still prevail, so we have a need to find out the alternative way of conducting the training. So we contacted the vendor Trafficware. I'm trying to find out how do we conduct these training virtually. As you know, the previous year, Maricopa County Department of Transportation has kindly provided their computer training facility for our training. So basically where we are now is we are discussing with the vendor to determine the pricing and some logistical requirements for the virtual training. What we learned today is that they will set up some up to 10 virtual workstation so that trainee could use during the training and all that. So there's some limitation that we start learning, and we're also getting the pricing information for that. Basically, the training for now, we're targeting early next year, either in January or February timeframe. Other training that we have in mind is the IT for ITS or ITS for IT. These training in the past has been coordinated through Ryan Gish, our RCN program manager, and we are in discussion with him and soliciting his assistance to organize these events. Next slide, please. I would like to give a heads up on the upcoming EVP working group update. The next meeting gonna take place next Monday at 1 p.m. And this is a biannual working group meeting. The last one was last year, sometime in August or September. So we're kind of behind the original schedule thanks to COVID and other things going on here. This working group is meant for the ITS or traffic engineering personnel, fire department, and police departments. Due to the unique nature of the emergency vehicle preemption system, that this is something that's really considered part of the traffic signal control system, but yet the users are the first responder, the fire or the police. So the workshop is naturally oriented toward these three parties. And for now, we have about 26 participants for next Monday's meeting. And this meeting, we will have cities of Tempe and Mesa, David Lucas, and Arthur Duck. They will be co-facilitating this working group discussion. We're gonna hear an update on the regional EVP developments. We will follow our previous discussion on the interoperability between the different systems, as well as the preemption signal facing, the consistency of it between the different jurisdictions. And wanna mention that the MAC side, the coordinator for the EVP or the future EVP working group meetings is gonna be Omar Abulaban. Next slide, please. This is another training opportunity coming up. As you know that in the FY 2020 TSOP projects, we have a evaluation components that's based on this new evaluation methodology developed by Kittleson and Associate. And it is the new methodology is based on the TransSync, the new tool that we acquire, as well as the third-party INRIX data. So this is part of Kittleson's task order. We purposely waited until the end of the TSOP 2020 TSOP project to provide this training. The intended audiences for this trainings are the TSOP consultants as well as the agencies. The expected time frame is January and February of 2021. Next slide, please. This is my final item that I want to confirm with the committee and everyone interested in the ITS committee meetings. For next year, we, as usual, the committee meeting will be conducted on first Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. Virtually until further notice. This concluded my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jeff. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If so, please raise your hand in the chat. All right, seeing none. Thank you, Jeff. We will move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is the FY 2021 TSOP project selection results. As you know, a total of 8 project applications were received for FY 2021 funding. At the November ITS committee meeting, the responsible agencies provided a presentation regarding each project, and the committee reviewed the merits of each project with respect to TSOP goals. Today, the committee will take action to recommend the final list of candidate projects for FY 2021 TSOP. At this point, I would like to invite Eric Nava to present the list of projects. Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the ITS committee. So today, as Chair Lucas mentioned, is the process that we've gone through, and this is just a slide to highlight the process that we've gone through for programming the FY 2021 TSOP projects. The call for projects happened in October 16th, followed by the applications submittals by the due date of noon on October 26th. We received 8 applications at the time. The 8 applications were reviewed by MAG staff to determine, make sure that all signals to the most current that we have information for are properly addressed and identified in the applications, as well as the need or the requested need for the projects in the TSOP applications. All applications were provided to the committee members prior to the November ITS committee meeting. At that November committee meeting, we had applications presented by each applicant to demonstrate the technical needs and addressing all technical aspects of the project, meaning the scope, the schedule, the time periods for signal timing, retimings. At that time, the applications or committee members provided comments to those applicants based on their presentations and the application. We provided a time period, a period in which applications could be revised based on committee input and needs. The deadline for that, for the revisions to those applications was on November 9th. We received 2 revisions to the application, which completed the list based on that, and based on some of those revisions, it allowed for all projects to actually fit within the allotted budget for this this fiscal year's cycle of projects within this the budgeted for the program. So the list was actually completed on November 12th. Once we received all revisions and reviewed all revisions and allowed for all 8 applications to be to fit within this year's budget of $420,933. So here's the final list of all the projects after the technical evaluations of them on the November ITS committee meeting. It was a total of 8 projects that were applied for. There's a 9th project, which is the MAG performance evaluation, in which we are performing evaluations for all projects using INRIX data and or TransSync, the TransSync tool, which was previously mentioned in the project managers, program managers report. That brings our total budget, estimated project cost to $416,000. Again, the budget available for this fiscal year was $420,933. So we have a remaining just under $5,000 within this fiscal year's budget. Here's a map of all the of the proposed locations in which we're presenting today. Again, total of the 8 locations spread out throughout the entire region. And based on all the information provided, we would like to request an action requested to recommend a list of projects for FY 2021. I'd be happy to answer any questions from the committee.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Seeing no questions, the next order of business is we need a motion to recommend approval of the final list of candidate projects for the FY 2021 TSOP. Please raise your hand if you would like to make a motion. All right, I see Tricia and Alan. They both kind of came up simultaneously, so we'll put Tricia down as making the initial motion and Alan seconding. With that, I will go ahead and go through the roll call for your vote on the motion. Please indicate yay or nay. Susan?
Yay.
Hugh?
Yay.
Tricia?
Yay.
Alan?
Yay.
Albert?
Yay.
Srini?
Yay.
Hong?
Yay.
Bruce?
Yay.
Yin Yang?
Yay.
Okay, I vote yay. Steve?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Eduardo?
Yay.
Thank you. Marshall?
Yay.
Raquel?
Yay.
Ward?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
April?
Yay.
Tessa?
Yay.
And John? Are you on? Okay, looks like we didn't get a response from John. Okay, with that, the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. With that, we'll move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is status of the statewide third-party traffic data subscriptions. This was an item that was recommended at a previous committee meeting for discussion. And just a quick overview, in 2017, ADOT procured statewide contracts for 2 major third-party traffic data providers to provide streaming traffic data that could be used by public agencies for managing traffic and to provide traveler information. In 2018, the ADOT TSMO division selected the services of INRIX and purchased statewide speed data. So following up on that previous ITS committee request, today ADOT will provide an update on the status of the current statewide contract and the future direction with third-party traffic data providers. At this time, I would like to invite Susan Anderson and John Roberts with ADOT to discuss this item.
Hey, good morning, David, and members of the committee. Thank you for having us present today. Wanted to give everyone an update kind of where we are with the INRIX data. Definitely ADOT has come to rely on this information for a lot of our operations and performance metrics, and we know more and more agencies are looking to use that as well. As was mentioned, ADOT did make a decision to go with INRIX several years ago. Our current contract is actually for a 3-year contract that actually initiated in April of 2020. So we do have this information for quite some time. At this time, I'll ask John to go over his presentation and give you an update on where we are. John.
Thank you, Susan. So I'm gonna talk a little bit briefly about what Susan just mentioned, but just touch on it lightly, and then just talk a little bit about how we're using the data. So hopefully the group gets an idea of how important this is, how much we're including this in a lot of initiatives, and how it's being institutionalized. So if there's any question about whether or not we're invested and want to continue to include this in our strategic plan and use it in other areas of our ITS master plan and technology, hopefully this will give you an idea that, again, we feel like it's a very important item in our operations of the system. So can you advance to the next slide, please? So I believe Susan touched on this already. So contract expirations in September 2022, it's part of our 5-year plan. If you don't have access to INRIX and the analytics suite, please contact us in systems technology at ADOT, and then we'll get you in touch with the appropriate people at INRIX. And then you'll have to sign a data user agreement. And then once you have that, you get access. So hopefully those that have gotten this have found it relatively straightforward, and that you're using this data and taking advantage of it. Next slide, please. So just a few things. Some of these things I'm sure you already know about. But we've implemented rural travel times that, again, regionally is not that big of a deal, since we tend to use loop detector data here. But this is something that we rely on heavily, and about a third of our DMSs are outside of the Phoenix area. So this has been a great inclusion in providing information to the travelers that are here in the state, going to different areas. We got 190 different destinations that are identified on these DMSs. So next slide, please. Also for our adaptive ramp metering project, the speed data from INRIX is used, and it's being integrated into a tool that the U of A has created for us, where we can analyze the improvement in operation of the system when it's in adaptive mode. Right now, it's only on State Route 51 southbound, and unfortunately, with COVID, we've kind of had to wait to see if congestion comes back to continue our evaluation. But the tool continues to expand. So there's some things for speed analysis, flow analysis, speed flow analysis, delay, cost benefit, and you can do this in real time. So this was also implemented in 2019 and continues to be expanded. Next slide, please. We do a lot of traffic analysis, which probably some of the rest of you do as well, but a number of the items that have been specific here recently is COVID reporting, evaluating whether or not we're at congestion speeds, and whether or not we need to light up our ramp meters. So we've already done this on I-10 Papago. We'll probably do it on the I-17 pretty soon, because we're seeing some congestion coming back in that area. And then some of this informs our RSAs. So our safety people can take a look at some of this data and hopefully improve mobility and safety through the area under study. So next slide, please. And this is just a snippet from our COVID-19 reporting. Again, INRIX, we don't get volume data from INRIX, but average speeds, and then we can display how we're comparing the speeds year over year for the system. So again, this is only a part of the report that goes out every week, but it's been a valuable benefit to being able to report this in a timely fashion. So next slide, please. We've also taken advantage of this in a number of our performance measures. The most recent one is reliability, or PTI. So this is something that we report out on every month and track for operations of the system. So next slide, please. And I apologize that the circles didn't move over. I made some changes last night and I noticed that right before the meeting they hadn't moved, so I apologize. So these circles are supposed to be around the heat areas on the map, but at any rate, danger slowdown is something that is a service from INRIX. We're trying to evaluate it to see if it can really help us to identify things that maybe truly are high risk areas or for back queue detection. And so the very first bullet is in quotes because that's what INRIX says it can do. We're still trying to evaluate it to see how we can use it. So we've written some software to ingest the data through one of their APIs, and we're evaluating it right now. The initial evaluation is the less granular data is probably not that helpful, but we're using subsegments now to see if we can take it to the next level. So stay tuned. It's something that we're actively looking at right now. Next slide, please. And again, this is outside of the region, but just to show you that, again, our scope is both urban and rural. And for those of you that may not know, we do get snow in Arizona. So this was from an after action event analysis last year. We got beat up a little bit for some operations during a winter storm at the end of November. So we went and did a deep dive on it. So if you look on the next slide, you can essentially see some of the tools that we used and ultimately identified where the traffic was still moving and there was still mobility. It was slow, but it was not consistent with some of the things that had been reported in the media. Now, the purpose wasn't to go argue with constituents. It was just to make sure if there's some things that we could have done that would have been better or things that we can do for future operations. And this resulted in some continuous improvement work. And we'll see this year during winter storms, any winter storms that come through if this has helped. So next slide, please. And then I just want to talk about some things that we're thinking about or actively pursuing. So we're looking at additional services. One thing we've gotten access to is an API for general purpose and HOV lane separation. So this can potentially help us on the urban system where we have HOV lanes and general purpose lanes right now. All INRIX data that we use aggregates all the lanes. So the travel times and speeds tend to be slightly optimistic. So it's the next thing on our list. It's another API that we're going to have to write some software for to ingest the data and analyze it. But that's one thing that we're looking at. We also want to see if we can use the data for predictive analytics, but we haven't gotten very far on that. Danger slowdown, back queue, we already talked about. RSAs, we talked about. Alternate routes, this is another thing that again, it's probably not something that we're going to use in the near term in the urban areas, but it was something that we recently did a study on I-17 around Sunset Point, because that's a notoriously bad area on holidays and weekends, to see if we could identify alternate routes. We did, but it would require a pretty significant event for it to make sense. But we did learn some things about messaging and how if you've got a lot of things for drivers to consider in an alternate route situation, a DMS may be pretty challenging for us to display that for the drivers. So, but we're going to do some other areas and see if we can help out with that. Again, it's primarily rural right now. And then work zones, we're using it for the Durango curve at Central Avenue project to confirm that the travel time data from the contractor is consistent with what we see. And it'll also be used in the Broadway curve just for analyzing post lane restrictions and closures to see if there's some things that could have been improved to improve traffic flow and safety in the area during those situations. So anyway, that's what I have. Hopefully, again, this gives you an idea that we're interested in this product. We're trying to get as much value out of it as we can, and we continue to push the capability of the service and the software. So, any questions?
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, John. At this point, I'd like to open it up for questions from the committee. I'd like to begin with one question. I think one of the biggest concerns from the local agencies was just continued access to the data and the sharing of the data. So you didn't specifically mention it, but could you just confirm that as renewals come up and this continued use of the INRIX data goes into the future, that will continue to be a component that will be part of the agreement, that local agencies will be able to share and have access to that data?
Yeah, I made an assumption that if we're using it, everybody is, but I will state it much clearer. I don't see any change in that approach. And again, just to be clear though, and we're always having to evaluate cost, and I could certainly see a risk with if we get some budget issues around it, but right now I don't see that. And again, it would be a significant cost not to have this capability again for ADOT, and if we have it, I don't see any changes in everyone else in the state that has it now or is qualified to have it, where that would change.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question and a comment. First, I'd like to thank ADOT for this great effort of procuring the INRIX data and sharing the use with the local agencies. And there's been a great regional services, and we're seeing an increased number of applications using the INRIX data. My question to John is that my understanding is INRIX, they differentiate their product with the regular INRIX data and the INRIX HD data. And HD stand for high resolution. And so what that means is since the data were provided in predetermined segments, and HD data give you a finer definition of these segments. And that has a potential benefit, say, when you analyze the local arterial streets and you got smaller segments that more coincide with where the traffic signal or intersections are. So my question to John is the HD data available only in the real-time streaming that ADOT use that you require some programming for, say, the DMS, travel time distribution and whatnot? Or is it also available through the use of the PDA suite, which is their data analytic software?
It's not available through PDA, but there's another set of tools called roadway analytics. It's not as capable as PDA, but it's something that can be used, and it's actually something that we've used some on the South Mountain Freeway and so forth. So it's available. I think probably the best thing is for those who are interested in seeing what the capabilities are and what's available, is that contact me after the meeting, and we can set up a virtual meeting and go through it.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee?
David, this is Bruce. Not so much a question, just as, again, like you said, thanks ADOT for the presentation. And I just want to reiterate, we do use it, and the folks in the TMC use that data on a regular daily basis. So much appreciated, and I appreciate the report.
You're welcome. And one other thing I'd like to bring up, and this was pre-COVID, that we had talked about having a user group in the in the region. I don't want to forget that because I think we can all benefit from that. So I know it's probably incumbent upon a few of us that probably are more leaders in this area in our organizations to get together. So again, I haven't forgotten it, and I would welcome some feedback from the rest of the group. We don't have to do it here in the meeting, but after the meeting, I'd like to get together and talk about that some more to see if we can move that forward.
Very good. Seeing no other comments, I think we'll conclude this item on the agenda. Thank you, John, and again, thank you to ADOT for providing this valuable resource, which is becoming much more institutionalized as you mentioned, as time goes on. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
With that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the traffic detection evaluation methodology study. Some time ago, United Civil Group was retained by MAG to develop a methodology for evaluating the performance of traffic detectors. The methodology specifically focused on the assessment of the performance of presence detection and the accuracy of traffic volume counts. UCG will present a summary of the report, including the study findings and future research needs. At this point, I would like to invite Sarah Simpson with UCG to present this item. Sarah?
Thank you, Jeff, Chairman. Oh, can we move the slide forward? Thank you, Jeff, Chairman, and the ITS committee members for the opportunity to present this study to develop a methodology to evaluate traffic detectors. The project began in 2018 to assist local agencies in choosing new traffic detectors that could be used to more accurately detect the presence of vehicles at signalized intersections, as well as collect traffic volume data. This is essential because traffic signal systems are reliant on accurate real-time data. Next slide. Thank you. The goal of this study is to develop a practical, easy-to-use methodology that is statistically valid. This can be used by governmental agencies to evaluate the performance of a wide range of traffic detector technologies. Next slide. To address this goal, the study takes on the following approach. To begin, a literature review was conducted to gain a better understanding of the existing methodologies used to evaluate traffic detectors and identify new opportunities for improvement. Next, the methodology was created using statistical methods to verify the detector output. A spreadsheet tool was also developed in order to compare the detector data to the ground truth data. When we applied the methodology to two test cases, first, for presence detection using data provided by the City of Mesa for the intersection of Baseline Road, Lindsay Road, and second, for volume counts collected at the intersection of Meeker Boulevard, R.H. Johnson Boulevard with the assistance of MGDOT staff. Lastly, we prepared a report that presents the methodology and gives an example analysis of the data comparisons. This report can be used as a guide to assist jurisdictions in using the methodologies to select traffic detectors. Next slide, please. As stated earlier, the first step in the process was a literature review. For this review focused on existing practices that evaluated the performance of traffic detectors. A couple of studies to note are the Indiana Department of Transportation and Purdue University that developed and refined the protocol framework, evaluated traffic detector performance, and identified performance measures. This review also identified and summarized two ASTM international reports. The first report focused on how to obtain acceptable ground truth data by using two observers that count the same video recordings for 15-minute increments. The counts must match by no more than 1% difference for the data to be considered acceptable. The second ASTM report described the recommended procedure for evaluating performance and operating requirements that should be considered when purchasing new traffic detectors. This report focuses on acceptable statistical tests and should be used to verify the traffic detector output. Next slide, please. Once the literature review was complete, the following methodology was developed. First, the agency must determine the test procedure. For instance, is the equipment being evaluated going to be new, or does the chosen detector equipment perform the way the agency expects at a specific location? Next, the agency must determine the detector function. Is it going to be used for presence, volume, or both? And how will the ground truth data be collected? Will it be collected manually, or will existing loops or another detection equipment be used? If the data is collected manually, the drawback is that the process is labor intensive and time consuming. And if new equipment is compared to existing loops or other equipment without manual counts, then the accuracy of the ground truth data could be questioned. Then you'll need to define the thresholds based on the literature review. Acceptable thresholds were noted as 1% difference for presence and 5% difference for vehicle counts. And then finally, you'll collect the new traffic data and compare it to the ground truth data using the statistical methods that are identified. Next slide. We used 4 statistical comparisons, the independent t-test, and graphs to determine the accuracy of the data. We developed a spreadsheet where volume and presence data can be input in 15-minute increments over a 48-hour period, and the statistical analyses are calculated automatically. Next slide. In order to test the methodology, we required a site with the following components: inductive loops, another form of traffic detection, and the ability to install an independent camera that could record video for the duration of the test period. At first, we reached out to member agencies to look for an intersection within the region that could provide both presence and vehicle counts. However, we realized that this effort would require a detailed analysis of detector responses that was unavailable at the time. So instead, we separated the presence output and the count output. We selected 2 intersections, Lindsay Road, Baseline Road for presence detection analysis in the city of Mesa, and R.H. Johnson Boulevard and Meeker Boulevard within MCDOT's jurisdiction for the volume counts. Next slide, please. In order to test the presence detection, we reached out to the city of Mesa because they had already tested 2 different video systems at the intersection of Lindsay Road, Baseline Road, using loop detectors as their ground truth data. An Autoscope Solo Pro and an Ateris video camera were both installed at the northbound left turn movement for comparison, which you can see on the north leg of the intersection. We have identified in yellow. And then Mesa provided historic data in ATS-PM format and filtered the data, and we filtered the data to show calls triggered by each detection device during the red phase for the northbound left turn movement over the 24-hour period. Because this intersection was reconstructed and the data we used was historic, we were not able to install an independent camera for verification of the results. Next slide. The results do show the differences in missed calls, the difference in standard error of the mean, which could be from random error, and that you could not reject the null hypothesis, meaning that the means of the data sets were considered equal. Therefore, the output from both cameras is considered statistically valid. One of the lessons that we learned from this application is that an independent camera could have been extremely useful to confirm the calls, as there was no way to note if a call was missed or false by looking at the data set. Next slide. In order to test the traffic volume counts, we reached out to Maricopa County Department of Transportation to see if they had an intersection that we could equip with new loop detector cards, a loop detector data aggregator, and a Conolite video camera. At this intersection, we installed an independent camera and monitored the southeast-bound traffic for a 48-hour period. For this effort, the ground truth data was collected manually with an independent camera installed on site. An Econolite representative retrieved the video data from the cabinet and provided that data to us for analysis. And for the loop counts, a cellular modem was placed on the top of the cabinet, allowing internet connections to be made through the cellular network. Everly was then able to retrieve the data remotely and forwarded that data to us. Initially, McDOT tested the loops and everything was working properly. However, upon data analysis, we found that the loop volume data had not recorded on lanes 1 and 4. In addition, the timestamp data from the loop aggregator was off by 9 hours. Therefore, only 39 hours of the 48 hours was able to be compared. And so when we discovered these errors, the equipment had already been removed and returned to the vendors. Therefore, the data was not recollected. So the data that we analyzed was for lanes 2 and 3, as shown on the aerial photo, for the 39-hour period. Next slide, please. The results show the percent difference in loop data versus ground truth data was 27%, and the video camera versus the ground truth data was 4%. Therefore, the standard error of the mean showed to be statistically significant for the loop data comparison, but the difference for the camera was due to random error. The independent t-test rejects the concept that the means are equal, and therefore the loop detector data could not be considered statistically valid. Whereas the camera data was considered statistically valid by means, as the means of the data were similar. A couple of important lessons we learned from this effort are to collect more data than what is required for the testing procedures, to confirm loop inductance, and that 6x6 loops may be a better method of collecting volume data because the 6x60 loops that we used underestimated the traffic volume by almost 30%. Next slide, please. Accurate data is critical to improving signal timing and vehicle progression on arterial roadways. This is why a standardized methodology is critical to test traffic detectors for accuracy. This method proved to be successful because it was seen by the statistical analyses that there were clear differences in the various types of detector technologies. Using this methodology should assist local agencies in evaluating traffic detectors and choosing the detector that meets their needs. In the future, if traffic detectors are evaluated using a regional test bed, then the ground truth data can more easily be collected and compared to the traffic detector output. This concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank TAC members who reviewed the report for their provided input, especially Mohammed Shaid and David Lucas for your contributions. I'd also like to send a big thank you to McDOT and MESA for their time and effort in providing the data to make the testing possible. And with that, I'm happy to ask any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Does anybody on the committee have any questions at this time? All right, seeing none. Thank you for the summary, Sarah. We look forward to seeing the final report. I'm sorry, it sounded like someone had a question.
David, excuse me, I'm struggling to get my audio to come on, but I did have a question on this before we leave it.
Please.
My curiosity was in the setup of the camera, the mounting, how close to vertical were the cameras being mounted for these tests? Were they shooting at typical distances that you might place them in the street, or were they more vertical in mounting to rule out other forms of interference?
For the City of Mesa project, those cameras were installed. There was a typical setup. That intersection was reconstructed, so I'm not positive of the angle. For RH Johnson and Meeker Boulevard, we were out there when they installed it, and that was a typical setup set up by the manufacturer. And they were angled, they were not vertical, they were angled some distance. I'm not exactly sure what that would be, but they were set up per the manufacturer's recommendations.
Okay, thank you. I know we had done tests probably back in 2010, roughly where I came from, of various manufacturers' cameras. And we did find, certainly as we got them more and more vertical, even out of the realm of use, they certainly produced better. And we got it down to about 4 or 5% back then, but those were very close to vertical mounts. Once we were shooting across the intersection to a typical presence detection setup, our differences were growing. So it was good to see that this report found a roughly 4% error in its typical use. So certainly cameras are improving. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Sarah. With that, we'll move on to item 8 on the agenda, request for future agenda items. If any member of the ITS committee has a topic or issue of interest you would like to have considered for discussion at a future meeting, please reach out to a member of the MAG staff or myself, and we'll certainly get those on the future agenda for consideration. With that, let's open it up to comments from the ITS committee members. I will go ahead and go around and call on each of you. If you have any information or updates on ongoing ITS related projects, please go ahead and feel free to provide those updates at this time. Susan?
Hi, David. No update at this time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Hugh, anything from Goodyear?
Nope, nothing to report from Goodyear. Thank you.
Thank you. Tricia?
Nothing to report today.
Thank you. Alan, anything from Glendale?
Nothing from Glendale.
Thank you. Albert?
Nothing for Surprise.
Trini?
Nothing for Chandler at this time. Thank you.
Holland?
Report.
Thank you. Bruce?
City of Phoenix just wanted to mention that we do have a signal system specialist, one position that we're trying to fill. If anyone knows of folks that want to work in a TMC environment.
Thank you. Yin Yan?
Nothing to report.
Steve?
Okay, I'll break the chain. A couple things going on in Peoria. We turned on a time of day plan on Cactus. And this is part of the emerging technologies pilot project that we're doing with Rhythm. So this is basically a comparison of what Synchro produced using our existing detection for turning movement counts and things like that. We put it into Synchro, and we are now running that. There will be some comparison and analysis done next week, and then coming up in early part of January, we'll be inputting what Code Green produces as a time of day plan, and there will be a comparison with that as well. In addition, we've just started implementation of an additional 20 CCTV cameras, actually 23. 3 of those will be at school locations, high school locations, rather than at signalized intersections, in order to just help to evaluate and help with school ingress and egress issues that are always ongoing. So there will be an additional 23 cameras added to our video archive system and recording capabilities. We did choose those locations kind of in conjunction with our PD as far as areas of interest for them. And then we pretty much recovered from it, but we had a major network issue, just kind of some lessons learned. We will be moving forward very quickly with a network management software. We had WhatsApp Gold in the past. It had kind of reached end of life, and we didn't renew it. And when this particular network issue occurred, we had approximately 20, I think it was 27 signals going to flash. It had we've actually done a broadcast storm and put a port 1 failure into the MMUs. And we trying to track it down, we honestly are not sure that we have, but we've made a number of changes to our switches with spanning tree settings and different port readings on our switches. And we're still kind of going through and troubleshooting. We had turned all those signals, they were not on the network for about 3 weeks, but they are all plugged back in now. So we have all 130 signals talking again. But it was a pretty awful week and a half. Thankfully, the signals was just a 1-day thing, but that's bad when your signal techs are running around all over the city trying to put fires out. So the network software will be coming along soon, and hopefully we can monitor it. And we're still going through and trying to figure out exactly what happened, but I guess it's just showing the importance of just managing the network and realizing, we're still not sure, like I said, exactly what happened, but it could have been a duplicate IP thing. We're still not sure, but anyway, I think that other than that, that's it for Peoria.
Thank you, Steve. Glad to hear things are back to normal.
Thanks.
Scott?
No updates from Pinal County.
Thank you. Eduardo?
No updates from Maricopa.
Thank you. Marshall?
Yes, we will be starting our Econolite demonstration project sometime in December. Possibly we might wait till to the next year, start of the next year, and so have more to report on that as we go along.
Great. Look forward to receiving that. Raquel?
No updates from Apache Junction.
Ward?
Yeah, our Dysart TSOP project is just about to implement timings, probably later this week. We did that trans week before study and going to do the after studies with them. So very interested to see how this all works out. Certainly have high hopes for Dysart finally having some coordination again. And that's about it.
Great, thank you. Mike?
Nothing to report today.
We'll get you next time. April?
Nothing to report today either.
Thank you. Tessa?
Nothing to report from the city of El Mirage.
Tony?
Nothing to report from Federal Highway.
And last but not least, John?
Nothing to report from Buckeye, and happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you. On that note, the next meeting of the ITS committee will be 10 a.m. on Wednesday, January 6th, 2021. Thank you for everyone this year with dealing with the change to a virtual format that we've had to do due to COVID-19. It's been great that we're still able to conduct business, and appreciate everyone's patience with the learning curve and changing platforms at one point, but I think we've got it down. So best wishes to everyone for a happy holidays, and be safe. Look forward to talking to you next year. At this point, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy holidays to everybody also.